Hi there, VC, Steve Whitty here. Time for another video. End of the month, we're in October now. So I think it's best to start showing what I've found in September. September's been quite a fruitful month for me. I found a fair bit, actually too much for it to be shown and over one video. So what the plan is to split it amongst maybe at least two, maybe three, more likely three videos over the next week. So hope September was as fruitful for you as it was for me. But hey, anyhow, gonna have a slurp. Throat's a bit dry. September's was a funny old month. I think it could be fair to say for everyone. But let's go with the first record. This is Billy Joel's Songs in the Attic, live album released in 1981. This wasn't your bog standard live album. It doesn't feature sort of the hits for Billy Joel. This is very much highlighting the songs up to this on the album's released, up to the Stranger album, recorded in 1980. It sort of celebrates. Billy Joel is celebrating the fact that, yeah, I am successful now, but prior to that, I did have a career where I wasn't that successful, and yeah, so yeah, here's some songs. I hope you like performances. They do sound good, actually. Band at that point is really tight, and it's a good little addition. I've got it's mostly 70s and early 80s Billy Joel. I've tended to drop off him towards the mid to late 80s onwards. Though he did do a couple of good half decent songs, so yeah, very pleased to have found that. Next up, this is an upgrade. This is Carole King's Tapestry. Upgrade because this is an original pressing. I've got an epic reissue, and this sounds so much better. And yeah, I was just pleased to find that. This one, AMN Ode Records, so UK original pressing. It's not much really you can say about this album. Sort of album of its time, classic album of its time. Just a turning point. I think very important album. I think when I watched the 1971 documentary on Apple Plus, I didn't realise how important this album was, particularly to women. It was sort of like they were getting this album sort of spoke to them. I think It's Too Late. It's just a song. It describes really a relationship that's broke beyond repair, which I think it gave people a lot of women a lot of sort of courage to say, I want to move on. This is not working for me. Now, be warned, these videos for the finds are going to include a lot of records that don't have covers, and one such record is, talking to Carole King, I found a copy of Read This Rhyme and Reasons. This came out in 1972. I've got the inner sleeve, but it was no cover to it. So I brought this out of curiosity. And yeah, it follows the same trajectory. You're never going to have an album as popular as Tapestry. Those are once in a career moments. This album did quite well. I think it got to number 2 in the US. But as I say, it was never going to match sales, or could argue be as good as Tapestry. But it's not a bad album, so I was happy to have that. I have no snobbishness about it. If I find an album that's got no cover, I'll have it. because in the end, it's the music. Yeah, you play. Yeah, the cover's nice to look at while you're listening to the album, but it's in the end, it's all about really about the music, isn't it? Another upgrade. This is the Four Seasons Who Loves You. This is an original cover. When this album became, particularly when I Want It Night, December 63 became a monster hit, number one in the UK. It got reissued. The album got reissued with a different cover. And it just said Four Seasons, Who Loves You, featuring December 1 Night 63. I've done a video on this album previously, years ago. I think this is a very underrated album. Absolutely wonderful songs on it. I think the fact that Frankie Valli doesn't really make much of an appearance on this actually might do the album, does the album a lot of favours. It highlights the songs a little bit. Frankie Valli was having hearing problems at the time of recording. Who Loves You, Western Star, Silver Star, sorry, is an absolute stonking song. Best song on the album. The title track, Who Loves You, sort of tapping into the sort of early disco. It's an album, I think, if you haven't heard it, it's worth checking out. Again, another upgrade, and now this replaces said albums that I didn't have a cover. Gong Live. I think this is a reissue. I'm pretty sure this is a yeah, it's a late 70s reissue of Gong Live. Always try and pick up some Gong when I can. There's always a mistake getting that record out, isn't it? There we go. That's better. Gong are one of those bands I always say try and pick up. Absolute. They're one-off. David Allen and Jill Smythe formed it after David Allen weren't allowed back into the UK after Soft Machine had toured France. And it's very much sort of like a band of its time, really. Just try to see who's on here. Steve Hillage on here, Mike Howlett's on here, Tim Blake. Yeah, it's just I think it's just a wonderful album. This is not a live album of a concert. This is live recordings of several concerts featuring several lineups of the band. So this is, I think it's wonderful. It's just, I say, if I see any Gong, I will pick it up. I do like them. I think I like the fact that they are so different. That makes it worth it to me. Let's tidy that up. Right, changing tact again. This is Telex. And this is their album, Waiting for Saint-Tropez. This is their debut album, I think. Telex are a band from Belgium. Very much keyboard, electric, synthesized based band. You could say a bit of a sort of influence of Kraftwerk into there. This was released in 1979. Features their version of Rock Around the Clock, which was a very minor hit for them in the UK. It was the only hit they ever had. But the B-side, Moscow Disco, is absolutely wonderful. The Imperious sort of like dance, electronic keyboard stuff. It's a really good album, this is. I don't really know much more about them afterwards, apart from the fact I think they represented Belgium in the Eurovision Song Contest a couple of years afterwards. But yeah, well worth seeking out. If you like sort of like Kraftwerk vibe, electronic music vibe, this is worth checking out. This is more probably danceable. this is, well, it's, I'd say Kraftwerk's danceable. It influenced a lot of DJs, but this is definitely worth checking out purely on dance. There we go. This is Richard and Linda Thompson. This is their album Sunny Vista, released in 1979 on Chrysalis. I think it's 79 or is it 80? I think it's 79. Features a platitude of people on here. Dave Pegg, Dave Mattox is on here, I think, as well. Kate Nanama Garrigal's on here, and Jerry Rafferty provides backing vocals on one of the songs. The problem is with Richard and Linda Thompson was that they never sold. They made great records. I mean, this completes my Richard and Linda Thompson catalogue. Not many artists I've got complete of, but this is mainly because they did 5 albums, but they're all good albums. There they are on the back. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, and obviously the marriage sort of deteriorated a couple of years afterwards. Shoot out the lights. I'll probably future plans. It might. I don't know if I get around to it this year, but I certainly am going to do like an overview of their career together. Next, this is Beach Boys' Wild Honey. It came out in '67. This is a German pressing. It's got a mixture of stereo and mono on this. This is an album where they've moved on. They've sort of kindled their love of dance music, Motown and Stax, that's about R&B that was going around. Yeah, it's not a bad album. It's a very short album, as they were in the '60s. So you've got, they do a version of Stevie Wonder's "I Was Made to Love Her," which isn't too bad. But the probably well-known tracks on here are "Darling" and "Here Comes the Night." And in a way, "Here Comes the Night," when I hear it, it sounds a little ahead of its time, talking about disco. But yeah, it's not a bad album. It's not a bad album. It's a good album. I'm pleased to find it because they are expensive. These albums, copies of these albums are quite expensive. Talking to the Beach Boys, and we are in October, so I found a copy of the Beach Boys Christmas album. It's one of those you only play it once a year. So it's always useful to have. Obviously, best stand-up tracks, Little Saint Nick, which is always on the Christmas compilations in the UK. But yeah, The Man with the Toy, Santa's Beard, Merry Christmas Baby, Christmas Day, Frosty the Snowman, Refeed Kings of Orient are, Blue Christmas, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, White Christmas, I'll Be Home for Christmas, and Old Lang Syne. So it's like a lot of artists cashing on Christmas. Next up is Beat It Girl. This is the soundtrack to the movie. This is quite unique, as this was the first time that in the UK a soundtrack to an album was released, and it did chart. John Barry put together the sound that composed the soundtrack. So you've got on here the sort of stars of the film: Shirley Ann Field, Adam Faith, and though she's not mentioned on the cover, this is Gillian Hills, and she went for a time spell in France and was considered to be one of the Yeye girls, French singers at the time. If you don't know the film, Beat Girl is set in Soho in the late 1950s. Gillian Hill's character, basically her father's married a rather glamorous woman. It turns out she used to be a striptease artist, and quite a lot of the film is sort of centred around the Soho area and sort of the underbelly, the striptease clubs that were around at the time. Also features a young Oliver Reed. He has a bit part in it. But it's sort of like it's a film of its period. It's got mixture of jazz, mixture of sort of rocking stuff. It's really well worth seeking out. Well, yeah, well worth having. The cover's absolutely in bits, but plays well. I was happy to have that. Totally moving on, totally different direction. This is There. Now, There were formed late 80s by Daryl Wharton, who used to be, it was the keyboard player in Thin Lizzy, the last incarnation of Thin Lizzy. And There was sort of like they tried to get into sort of like I wouldn't say AOR metal, but they're trying to be a British equivalent, and I'm trying to think of the sort of bands that would be of that ilk. I'm struggling a little bit here. I suppose your Poisons, your Warrant, but not as little bit. It was more sort of music wise. Water Damage on the cover. It's not a bad album. It's of its time. Probably, if I show you this guy here, if he cut his hair a little bit, and the fact that he went to university, got a very good degree, and carried on, that is Professor Brian Cox. Yes, he was the keyboard player in Dare. People mention the fact he was the keyboard player in Doreen for a while, but before that, he was the keyboard player in Dare for a couple of albums. And finally, on this video, I mentioned when I did my I'm Fed Up with the VC video about Misty's big adventure and Gareth, what happened to him. So since then, Pete at the shop has brought his collection off his dad, and obviously I think the Beat Girl might have come from that. But amongst the things he was sorting out, Pete gave me a copy of the test pressing for their album Television's People. I think it came out 2006. And yeah, I'm really happy to have this. It's sort of reminder of the guy. It's a good album, actually. Very lyrically astute, Gareth was. Yeah, and his collection's going through the shop at the moment. Lots of soundtracks. Ennio Morricone. He's bought quite a fair bit of the Johnny Trunk reissues, and some really good stuff going in there. And it's flying out. It's a shame when somebody passes on, you have to split up their collection. But I suppose that's it. It gives somebody else pleasure. That's the whole thing about it. I'm sure the stuff out the back when I'm dead and buried will give people pleasure as well, hopefully. So that's part 1 of September's finds. I will get round to recording parts 2 and 3. So if you like what you've seen, give the thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. Feel free to leave a comment. Yeah, and if you like it, then click on the subscribe button. So until the next video, take care of yourselves, VC. Keep spinning. More importantly, keep on smiling.